I'm going to combine friend and fam. It's going to be fram. Welcome back to Can You Not? We're once again in the studio space, albeit without any awesome podcast possums. And today's topic, as chosen by Mr. Brian, is...
Yep. Growing up. Adulting. Adulthood.
All that good stuff. So, I don't think we haven't really gotten any comments lately. I don't know. Should we just jump right into it?
Sure. Yeah. That's a calculator, Joe.
Yeah, I haven't eaten much today.
That's okay. One time my phone vibrated, and I reached for my TI-89 to check the text, and I was like, oh no. Like, I need to go to bed. Like,
night. I was watching a stand-up by Childish Gambino, and he said something about the fact that he knew he was growing up because, like, he went into Home Depot, and it wasn't, like, the most boring thing in the world anymore. Like, he was like, look at those lamps. They look real nice. He was like, Home Depot was like the new Toys R Us. So it got me to thinking, like, what things changed, like, that I didn't realize changed? Like, things that I liked or things that I wanted to do when I turned or started to become more of an adult. Mm-hmm. Like, people always talk about, like, oh, yeah, I knew I was an adult when I had to buy a mattress or something. You know what I mean? But yeah. In my head, like, I was like, whoa, I like peanut butter more than jelly now. And that was mind-blowing. Like, that really blew my mind.
That's so funny.
I was making a PB&J, and I was like, this is too sweet. Put more peanut butter. And then I was like, oh, my God, you're old. So I was just wondering what things made you think, wow, I'm growing up.
Yeah.
I don't eat very much candy anymore.
Yeah.
I never was a candy person.
Oh, I was very 1,000% a candy person.
Same.
I loved candy. I just don't. Okay, so to be fair, I could probably still knock out a pound bag of Skittles like in like 3 hours. Like, I love Skittles.
Skittles are great.
But a big part of that, I don't know if it's growing up per se, but that I have such a large dietary restriction that I enforce on myself. Like, that makes it so a lot of things I don't eat anymore. So, I mean, I guess discipline is something that I've gotten better at, like self-discipline. But as far as, like, the candy thing goes, I'm just trying to eat better and stuff. Although I still can't convince myself to exercise regularly. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because, like, I think the difference, like, when I think more about what I eat, is that it's my choice now, and so I feel so empowered by it. Whereas, like, when you're growing up, it's like you have to eat broccoli, and you just like I always thought, like, okay, I'm forced to eat broccoli, and I don't like broccoli, and I'll never like broccoli because someone's telling me I have to like it, you know. Whereas now I like broccoli, and maybe that's because someone's not telling me that I have to like it. I just kind of like it on my own.
Oh, I have another one. I used to have to clean for my grandma, and I used to get so annoyed because she was so particular about, you know, it has to be spotless. Oh, you missed a spot, you missed a spot, you missed a spot. Like, this is how you do this. You have to make sure there aren't streaks on the windows. Like, you have to clean all the way around the toilet, like, blah, 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 blah. And it, like, always kind of irritated me. And we didn't clean that way at my house. And now I live in my apartment, and I'm totally 100%. Everything has to be cleaned the right way, or else it drives me crazy. And it's, like, just because I spent so much time doing it, that now I, like, have this standard in my head. It's just, like, no, it has to be perfectly spotless.
Well, I like that you phrased it as growing up instead of, like, getting old, because, like, I hate how many people our age are like, I'm so old now.
Shelby
just
literally,
ancient.
When she was turning 18, said, I'm almost 40.
Because then I figure, like, what is it going to be like in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years?
Nothing's going to change, so I'm going to keep bitching about it.
I mean,
every day we're just going to be like, I'm so old.
I'm practically dead.
Right.
Yeah.
35. My life's over.
Because in the scheme of things, like, if we ever get to the age of 80, we're going to look back and be like, wow, 50 was so young. I can't believe I ever thought I said I was old at 50.
I do that all the time, though. Like, I'll be like, dude, I wish I was 12 again. Like, do you know how many things I would do differently if I was 12 again?
I don't want to be 12 again. I like my adulthood.
I mean, I like my adulthood, but I feel like my adulthood would be a lot better if I could go back and change things that I did. Like, I'd probably get way better grades and be, like, super smartical. I'd study more. I'd play basketball or something.
I mean, that's another thing, I guess. I guess I knew I was getting older when I became very, very interested in politics. Which is when you're little, it's like, oh my gosh, you turn on like C-SPAN or something like that, and it's like so boring. Yeah. I mean, not that I have C-SPAN, it's an example. But, I mean, I guess it's a little different now because the current climate is so bizarre and so compartmentalized into little bite-sized, enjoyable pieces so that we can constantly get our viewpoint validated. But there's still something about that
I feel like a lot of the things that people will notice, like, are based off of your experiences, too. Because, like, I have friends that in high school or middle school, like, didn't talk, like, they think, like, dating-wise. They didn't date or do anything dating-wise. They didn't talk to other people. So, like, when they got to college, like, their version of, oh, I'm growing up now was, like, oh, I went to a party and I got a guy's number and I'm texting him. Versus, like, people like me, if I was single right now, like, I wouldn't consider it dating unless, like, we actually, like, go out and do things. You know what I mean? Like, adult things. Like, you have to be an adult.
I remember when I first moved in to my apartment several years ago, and I started buying
2 years ago?
Yeah.
Several.
Oh, I guess, 2
years ago.
A couple years ago.
There you go.
More than one.
It feels like longer. A couple years ago, and I started buying all of my own, like, kitchen equipment, and how I was just so delighted. Like, I would look at, like, this wooden spoon I bought and be like, this is my wooden spoon. Like, I was so delighted by that because, you know, for all of your life, it's a group, it's a family's spoon, you know, it's something that they bought 25 years ago, and like, but no, like, this is my spoon, and I have it, and look,
I will
it's mine.
pass
It's
the
like,
spoon down to my children.
for generations to come, and that was a very exciting growing up moment, I know.
I mean, Shelby and I and our friends preparing to move into this house, like, talking about buying furniture and things that need to be fixed and stuff. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, it's funny to me.
I have two things. Oh, sorry, you weren't done yet.
I was just saying, like, we weren't really thinking about it at the time, but, like, now looking back, it's like we're preparing to live in a home, like a house, on our own.
I was gonna say that one thing, like, I feel more independent, but I don't feel totally independent. And one thing that I still definitely do is my dad's a registered nurse. So whenever I get, like, bump or bruise, or, like, you know, something looks weird, like I have a weird shaped bruise or something, Dad, do I need to go get this looked at? And I'm like, like, I thought I broke my toe the other day, so we were in a park and I took my shoe off. I was like, do I need to do anything about this? Like, so I still definitely do that. So I don't know if I'm ever gonna stop doing that.
Like, at what point is it that you, like, stop, like, calling your mom, like, hey?
Never.
Because, like, I feel like my parents, like, don't call their mom, like, Mommy, I need your help. You know what I mean? Like, is it when you become parents? Like,
no, because I think, if you still have parents that are still alive, I think parents still look to their parents for advice, you know, and that kind of stuff, you know? Because I know that's
maybe
what my
it's
parents
after
have
your,
done,
like,
know?
second or third child, you're like, I don't know.
I don't know, because every kid is so different, though.
You're right.
You know, like, and so maybe your first child is someone that's very, like, well put together and, like, I don't know, like, very prim, I don't know, but then maybe the next child's, like, a super wild card that's kind of bouncing off the walls, so, like, maybe, you know, that becomes something that you can ask an older adult about.
I think something else that changed was becoming cognizant that and this seems really obvious to me now, but just becoming cognizant that my parents had other things going on and like other problems and just other, like, just people. Other things. Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, just that there are other things going on, because, you know, I grew up as an only child, so, like,
You did.
I did grow up as an only
So
child.
their entire life was you.
I don't want to say that, but it was just
No,
kind of
I'm just
like,
kidding.
I just wasn't aware of the other things going on, like
Right.
outside of like, my grades, like what I was doing, like getting rides to and from my activities and stuff. So at some point I became like aware of like, oh, this is what they're working, like these are some of the things that I'm aware of that are happening, and like these are some of the other things that they do, and like that kind of stuff. So
I think another thing for me is just caring about my appearance. Because, I'm just growing up and go to school, whatever. It's just like, I don't know, I'm just trying to get through school and get to home, like I don't care what people think I look like. But now, because I have to put myself out there and I'm essentially pitching myself for gigs and for jobs and for everything, and creating this image of myself, I have to think a lot about like what I look like, and that's a very stressful thing sometimes.
Yeah, I find myself in like the men's dress section of stores more than like.
And it's fun.
at
That's another thing. It's fun to shop.
It is
fun.
I think it's fun to clothes
I think
shop.
it can be fun. Like you're like changing your wardrobe, and you're like, I'm growing up.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, see,
I love it.
Buy
I'm
this
not.
tie.
I didn't change my wardrobe, but I did pull a shirt out of my closet this week and go, damn it, I have to fucking iron this. God, I hate growing up. I don't want to iron. This is the worst. I still take my laundry back to my parents' house. I need to use the sink to hand wash stuff.
Keeping up with laundry is a bitch. That I do not find fun.
I just remember being I was like lamenting that I had to iron this shirt. I was like, I don't wanna.
No.
Just kind of spinning off of that, like, yeah. That was the spinning noise. That was the tornado. We're not in Kansas anymore.
Was that the spinning noise of the transitions on the show?
Please add that. Please.
Just use
Wait,
that.
actually, I think I'm gonna just for this episode only. I'm gonna use that sound effect instead of the actual sound effect.
Good,
that
You
good.
I
do
use.
have a sound effect in there.
Anyway, so I was gonna say, like, a thing that happens is that, there are all these kids, and they're like, man, I just want to grow up, like, I can't wait until I can drive, like, I want to be able to drink, like, blah, 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 or, like, younger kids who just, like, don't even care, and they're just like, I'm really excited, when I grow up, this is what I want to do for a job, blah, 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 and then on the other side, you have, like, all these, like, people our age who are like, I just want to be 5 years old again, I just want nap time, like, and I just think that's kind of interesting, so, like,
We're never happy with what we have.
yeah, that ever, like,
The
never.
grass is always greener.
Yeah, I guess. So, like, I don't know. What do you make of that? That, like, we always want to be the other thing. Like, we got what we wanted, and then it's terrible, and then we all want to go back, and then we can't.
Take it for granted.
I think that goes for like everything though, right? Like when it's summer, we want winter, and it's winter, we want summer.
I don't think I ever want winter.
I want winter all the time. I want Christmas. I want
I'd
my
rather take
birthday.
summer, but I do love the
want,
holidays in
you know,
winter.
Oh, I just hate school.
I want
Yeah.
basketball. I want basketball back so bad. And it just ended.
Oh, yeah, and we lost. I'm sorry.
We're never losing. We never lose.
At least there's not going to be a parade again, because that might actually murder
But
me.
Draymond's not on the cover of 2K. Kyrie is, so we win.
Yeah, see, I try very, very, very hard to try to appreciate the moment because it is very hard to do that, and especially when we experience great change in our lives, and we always say, like, oh, looking back, I didn't realize that I enjoyed this thing, whether it be like a new job or a new living space or a new circle of friends. Like, change is always going to eventually happen to everything, all things must pass. And so I it's hard because it's so easy to get into routines and get used to things, the good and the bad. But I try very, very hard to appreciate what my current status is. And sometimes this is what I do. It's like a weird little trick that I do sometimes. Sometimes when I'm like not appreciative of where I am at this point in my life, I imagine that I'm like 90 years old in a nursing home and that I'm thinking back, wishing I could come back to when I was this age. And then boom, I am this age. It's like a wish come true. It's amazing. So
It's the movie Click.
but I don't. It's gonna be sad when I actually am 90 and I can't actually
That's gonna
go
be
back
so
to when
sad. Like that's gonna be so.
Yeah.
But Shelby just reminded me yesterday. We were hanging out with a few of our friends, and they have a cousin who's 15,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about well, they made fun of me first because I was like, what grade are you even in when you're 15? Like, I don't even remember being 15.
When you're 15,
like,
it's like super obvious.
Right.
Like, you're a freshman or sophomore, right?
Yeah, so I had a bottle of Moscato, and she kept asking for a drink. Like, she's like, all right, can I have a drink? And our friend was like, no. And then I said, like, you know how they have the drunk glasses that kids always try on, but that doesn't turn people off from drinking.
No.
It's like, oh, this is trippy.
This is
like,
great.
they should have a pill that they make teenagers take that
their head
simulates
throbs.
a hangover. So we understand,
That
and
would be
then
funny.
they'll never drink. They'll just
Yeah,
be like,
it's for Dare. Instead of the goggles, you have to run around the block 3 times in 90-degree weather without water, and then you just have to lay there and be dehydrated. It's like your head hurts.
Oh my god.
like they should have a pill to simulate all those things. So like,
Oh my god.
like when the kid's like, I can't wait till I can drive. Pill to simulate. I don't know. Like,
speaking of
what's the
age-
worst part of driving?
Right. Well, speaking of age difference, like, I was at a family function, and I have a 16-year-old cousin who's awesome. And she and I were in conversation, and I mentioned something about that one Vine where it says, a potato flew around my room. And she literally put a potato on her fan and it's
Yeah.
flying around the room. And I made a reference to that, and I was like, you know about that Vine, right? Like, that wasn't just a random reference. And she, like, gave me a weird look, and I was like, what? And she was like, oh. She's like, I thought you were making a joke. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, because everybody knows that Vine. Like, why would anyone not know that Vine? And it was like that weird moment where, like, okay.
This is the thing that the kids are into.
Yeah, I mean, Vine's dead now, which just makes it even weirder.
Right.
But, like, the fact that I thought, like, okay, this is kind of a weird little corner internet thing. Surely not everybody knows about this. And having
What's
a 16-year-old say,
common sense
everybody
to a
knows about
16-year-old?
this. Yeah.
Right.
What is common sense to a 16-year-old? Sounds like a really long conversation. Boy, oh boy.
But I love being able to go out at midnight and buy, like, myself a snack. I
I
love
thought you were about to say a potato.
I do have some potatoes at home that I need to eat. I love, like, getting
Beer and
to
tots.
control what I work on, and, like, you know, like, I mean, I realize that there's things I do hate about
I
being
love
an adult,
that
but
I'll
there's
be
so many
able to
things I love
enjoy.
about being an adult too that I always wish I could do when I was a kid, you know?
Yeah.
I
We'll
wish
be
I
able
could
to
stay
enjoy.
up super late. And now I can stay up super late, and there's
I
repercussions
love
to that,
paying
but
tuition.
We'll be
And
able to
being in
enjoy
charge of my own
100% of Beer and
bedtime.
Tots Fest instead of 50%.
Beer and
Yeah.
Tots. I saw a
Yeah.
location for that.
I can drink alcohol
Where?
now
It's on
legally.
Facebook. The Facebook event has the location listed.
I have to work all that day.
But they only have beer and not cider, so I don't know if I'm going to pay to get in because I can't drink nothing there.
But, like, I love
That's
being able to drink. I love being able to have a license and drive. Like, that's such a beautiful freedom. I mean, again, all those things come with terrible things too, but I think
Oh,
the
I have
good
a
of those
terrible
things.
thing. Do you want to hear the terrible thing?
Yes.
What?
Sleeping slightly too much and, like, being bored of math and not motivated to do things turned into depression. Now I have to pay for medication for
Yeah,
that. So,
yeah.
like, that was kind of weird.
I do hate how much sleep I need more than when I was like 14,
I feel like
which is only going to increase
I
as I get
hate
older. That's
sleep
so frustrating.
Oh,
personally.
I love sleep.
so.
I
Shelby and I
love
were talking
sleep,
about
man.
this earlier. Like, I don't understand people that like I'll be like, hey, want to do this, or like we'll have something to do, and I'll be like, all right, let's do it at 11 o'clock, and they'll be like, oh, I don't do anything before 12, and I'm like, huh?
What?
There are people that say this, like a lot of people.
They won't be
I'm not
saying that.
friends with any of
They won't be
them.
saying that in 5 years. That's all
No,
I'm saying.
no, these are like grown-ups.
Oh,
Whoa.
wow.
Oh, see,
Yes.
like, I recently, with my internship and my classes and my other job, like, I've been like, if I'm not home by 9, we're not doing it. Like, I need to go to bed. Like,
But the thing is, like, for me, even if I don't have anything to do, like, I get up in the morning and I do, like, I have to be up and functioning, you know?
right.
Like, like, usually I'm up at, like, 6:30, but if I don't have to be up at 6:30, I'm up at 8:30 or 9, and I do something.
I hate sleeping the day away when I don't
Exactly.
need to. Unless
Yeah.
I'm working late that night, you know, and I know I need to sleep
that's,
in. Yeah.
But
That's why I sleep as much as I do, and I know, like I said, when the older I get, the more sleep I'm gonna want, and I'm like, I don't want this. I
always think it's funny talking to people about it because I know people who are like, why do you like sleeping? Like, sleeping is, like, not doing anything. But part of the problem is just I'm so exhausted all the time that, like, getting the opportunity to just, like, fall back.
I mean, I
is so
understand that.
nice.
But, like, I mean, for me, I'll get home from work at 4 in the morning and still have to be up at 6:30. So my inner time clock, like, won't allow me to just... It won't let me just sleep all day.
Right. Yeah, if I deviate too much from my sleep schedule, I get migraines. Oh, and just circling back really fast to the actual topic, I meant to say this and I forgot, but it's so funny because I was sitting in one of my engineering classes and there are a couple guys in there who are like older than 30, so they're a couple years older than the rest of us, and we were making fun of them. I studied with one of them and I was like, "You're an old man, like you're like 34, you are so old," and like he was like, "You're on my list," and the reason I said he was old is because he got really excited because the city he was moving to, or something about insurance. He got really excited about insurance. He was like, "It's gonna be so much cheaper," and I was like, "You're old when you get excited about insurance." And he was like, "But it's so much cheaper." I'm like, "You're proving my point right now." He's like,
right. We were talking about renters insurance. That's a weird thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Renters insurance.
Yeah. That was one of those things where when I moved in with my roommate, I was like, "Mom, what do I even do?" And she's like, "Just, I'll talk to the guy," and I was like, "Okay, Mom, you're the best." Like,
we have a sponsor for today. It's a scripted sponsor segment.
Hey, Amber.
Hay is for goats. So is garbage.
I thought hay was for horses.
What are you? Some kind of an equine veterinarian?
Never mind. I was just going to ask you about today's sponsor, Quip.
Quit what?
Oh, no, that was you.
Quip is it?
Quip it? What should I quit?
No, Quip is it.
Is what?
Is the sponsor.
Is the sponsor?
No, the sponsor is Quip.
The sponsor quit?
No, the sponsor didn't quit. The sponsor is Quip.
Enough, you two butt munchers. What are you, a couple of... How do you pronounce... Abbott and Costello imitating comedy club, berating... Reasonable sense of humor, deflating, show-off banner, hip gyrating, unfunny, ego-inflating fools.
I'm a gummy bear.
Quip is a service you can use to service your mouth.
Oh my.
Perhaps I should rephrase. It's an easy way to get things like toothpaste, toothbrushes, floss, and even dental tools to keep your teeth the best in the game. You know how easy it can be to forget to update your toothbrush and other dental hygiene over time. Quip has made it very easy because you get new products every 3 months.
How do I go about keeping my mouth as clean as a baby's freshly born buttocks, Brian?
I have an issue with that line, but we'll talk about it later.
First, you start by never saying the phrase again, but then you have to go to tryquip.com/CYN, where you can save $10 off of refills. Again, that's tryquip.com/CYN for $10 off dental refills.
Wow, that's a truly amazing deal. But Joe wrote this script really late in the moment and doesn't have time to add anything else to the script. So let's go back to the show.
I'm a dumb cookie.
That would be really useful real talk though, because I actually just use like the little free toothpaste I get from my teeth cleanings. Like
I need a new battery for my thingy, my electric toothbrush.
I think they have electric toothbrush things. So
Yeah,
try quip.com/CYN.
Yeah.
Quipe.
Quipe.
Kip.
Kipper.
Kip.
Quiper belt.
Cool Whip.
I'm gonna start using butt munchers on a regular basis. These are a bunch of butt munches.
A bunch of butt munchers. I can't remember if I've talked about this before. Maybe I have on the show.
Andy
Maybe
will be
people
able to tell you.
bored.
He's been listening back through and
Really?
trying to have conversations with me about these podcasts from 2 years
Really?
ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm like, I do not remember any of that.
That's really
He'll
funny.
be able to tell you.
But I was thinking about the nature of optimism and how as we get older, we're told that optimism is dumb and that it's for kids, and that if you really want to be an adult, you have to be pessimistic,
realist.
and you have to be not even just realist, you have to be pessimistic. Like, you have to expect the worst a lot of times,
Well-
you know? And I think there is a form of optimism that can be real, as, you know? Like, I feel like I can be realistic about an issue, but still be optimistic and work towards a better version of that thing that I want, you know? Like, when it comes to the environment, I can be a realist that we're in a lot of trouble right now with the environment, but I can be an optimist in how I go about trying to help the environment and in hopes for the future, you know? Like, so, I mean, do you think there's such a vast difference between being an adult and being optimistic, or is it truly just a youthful thing to think?
I think a lot of people equate optimism with ignorance. So, and I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think like the way you approach things, like attitude really, I don't want to say attitude is everything, because that's cliche and annoying.
It's
but
a
like,
lot of it.
But like it really can change a lot. So like my classes end in, I want to say 5 weeks, and my internship ends in 8 weeks. So I was like, I'm excited for that period of time where I'm only working, I'm not going to classes. And I was talking to somebody, and I said, yeah, there's only 5 weeks left of school. Like, I only have 5 weeks left in my semester. And he was like, 5 weeks is a long time. And I was like, but then I'll be like, he's like, that's the whole summer basically, and like that kind of thing. So like we were saying the same thing kind of, but it was like he was taking the pessimist, like, oh, it's 5 weeks, whereas I'm like, oh man, it's only 5 weeks, like it's only a 10-week semester. So like I don't think that makes, but that's still optimism, I think. So I don't I don't know.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because I was just having a debate with someone, well, it wasn't just, it was a while ago, about the difference between what black children are told by their teachers growing up, like in the hood, usually not like suburban black kids, but the difference between black kids and white kids, what they're told by their teachers growing up, like, oh, you can be this, you can be that, you know what I mean? Whereas like most black kids don't grow up thinking, I can be a doctor, I can be an engineer. Like, you're told you won't be shit when you grow up. And when you're told that as a child, like, you carry that pessimist thought with you, and you can't, like, it's hard to get things done. Like, I think, therefore I am, you know what I mean? Whereas a lot of white kids are able, if they're not told that they can be something, they have someone to look up to and say, I can be this. You know what I mean? So for kids that don't have that in front of them, like, you have to hear it from someone, hear it from an adult, hear it from a role model, and then that thought process is carried with you, like, to becoming an adult. And it's just generally hard to get things done when you're a pessimist. That's why I think it's not that you're told to be pessimistic, but you're told to be a realist. You know what I mean? Like, to look at, so you can be an optimistic realist in the sense where, like, you look at it and you have a positive thought process, but you are real in the sense that you know what it will take to reach your optimistic goal. But if you're a pessimist, then you're just like, you're realist pessimist, then you're like, well, if we're going to be real, I'm not going to be able to do anything. You know what I mean?
Two things. One, that's why representation is so important.
Yes.
So that way people can have role models. And the other thing I was going to say is that there's also a parallel in that with the difference between boys and girls when they're learning stuff in elementary school, because like, girls generally are more academic at a younger age. Like, they're better at the kind of thinking you need to do for school, like, at a younger age than boys are. So, you know, girls do good, and their teachers tell them, oh, you're so talented. Like, you're so talented. And boys do bad, and they're told, you need to work harder. Like, if you're going to do this, you need to work harder. And so I think this has a lot to do with math, honestly, because when these girls reach something that is difficult and it's hard and they can't do it, they don't have that, well, you need to try harder mentality going on. So because that you're talented thing falls out completely from under them, and I think that's why a lot of girls struggle so much with math, is because math is like, it's a rigorous and difficult subject, and if you don't apply yourself, you're not going to get it. So, like, even beyond just, like, the whole, like, negative culture around math, you have, like, just this sort of unconscious, like, reinforcement of, well, you're naturally talented at this is what you should do, and if you're not naturally talented, then you just won't get it. Whereas, like, you know, guys tend to get, like, just work harder, just work harder, just work harder, you'll figure it out. So, like, it's kind of the same thing. Like,
yeah, you need a balance.
Right. You need to, and you just, like, I guess that's, I don't want to, like, that's kind of, that's mindset, that's attitude, that's how you approach the problem. So, it's similar.
Attitude plays a huge factor in everything. Like, if you go into a job interview with a pessimist attitude, you're not going to get the job. Like, I've gone into interviews where I'm like, I'm probably not going to get this job, and didn't get the job. I remember when I went into my first interview and people were like, Shelby was there and my mom was there, and they were like, you're going to get this job. And I was like, I'm not going to get a $15 an hour, $10 an hour job as my first job. And them telling me that, I went into the interview with a much better attitude. And then recently, like, I've been promoted a lot through this job, and it got to a point where I was doing interviews. And my boss told me that my attitude during my interview was what landed me the job. You know what I mean? And to look at people's attitude during interviews. So, I mean, I feel like even if you're told, like, I feel like that's the wrong message to tell people that are becoming adults, to tell them that you need to be more a pessimist than an optimist. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can look at things and be realistic about them and know what you need to do, but be optimistic, because you're not going to get anything done being a pessimist.
Yeah. I've heard the phrase something like pessimists are just severely disappointed optimists, which I think kind of makes sense because when you think about it, and a pessimist is usually downtrodden about something because they think it can be better than what it is, you know?
Right.
And so I get that. So I think it's better to, I don't know, because, like, I don't know, you even saw it with, like, the election and everything last year, right? Like, so many people were like, you know, my vote doesn't matter, and blah, 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 and the government's corrupt, and yeah, to a certain extent they were right that the government was corrupt and the vote didn't matter as much as they wished they could, but at the same time, they didn't take that information and do anything with it, you know? Instead of taking that information and being like, well, maybe we can change that, they just accepted that that's how it is and you can't do anything, and that's what bothers me.
Pessimism doesn't fix anything.
Right, right.
Bitching about it doesn't fix anything.
That reminds me also of a debate that I was having about, well, with another issue in the black community, which is black women thinking that there are no good black men left. And saying that, oh, I've got my heart broken by 3 black men. You haven't gotten your heart broken by every black male. You know what I mean? Like, and that mindset steers you away from black men, or you get what I'm saying, like, so you'll never encounter a black male that you'll give a chance. You know what I mean? It's just it's an interesting thought. I mean, and those, like, the fact that people, like, I don't know, heartbreak is one of those things that's difficult to.
Yeah, because that turns into a feminism argument, honestly. Right. And, like, I don't want to do that right now. I can suggest so many Twitter accounts if you want to, like, watch the feminism stuff go down, the black feminism.
But there's a lot of stereotypes when it comes to a lot of that stuff, like, you know, black women are all super angry and sassy 24/7.
And that was a part of the debate too. It was interesting because both sides. I was kind of a third party in the debate. There was a black male that was saying that the reason why black women and black men don't get together is because of black women, and the black woman was saying that it was because of black men. And I was trying to point out to both of the people in the argument that the pessimist attitude at which that you look at each other is the reason why. Like, the both of you kind of have a problem, and it's not a entire population problem, it's a person-to-person mindset problem. You know what I mean?
Really sucks that you and Shelby are such terrible people that feed into the stereotype.
I know, it's awful. Terrible.
Well, if you want to check out other optimistic episodes, you can find us on iTunes. Give us a rating, because we would love you so much. We would send you hugs and kisses in a box if you just give us a freaking rating for once. Just give us a freaking rating. We're also on SoundCloud. We're also on a lot of your favorite podcasting apps. You can go to canyounotpodcast.com or canyounotpodcast@gmail.com with all your feedback, ideas, thoughts, suggestions, favorite moments. Tell us what your favorite moment from an episode is.
Write us a poem.
Yeah.
Sing us a song.
Write a poem about my facial hair.
Pose a riddle.
Yeah. But
Just
don't give us...
not green glass doors.
Just don't
we already played that one.
Just don't give us the answer, though, so we have to figure it out.
Yeah, we'll
on
have
our
to
own.
figure it out, and then you can... Yeah.
What did we all learn today?
That we're old. That's what I learned.
I learned that I'm basically dead already, so...
I learned that I'm old and dead, but positive about it.
Because you're really 90 years old.
I'm really 90 years old, and this is all just some fever dream imagining when I'm in my early 20s.
I'm actually Benjamin Button, and I'm gonna age backwards.
Yo, we saw it. Oh, that's another tag.
Anyway, to those who are pessimistic but don't want to do anything about the things they're upset about, can you not?
Can you not ever?
To past me who decided to do 2 jobs and 2 classes at once. You silly child.
To young people who
You butt
complain
muncher.
about being young, can you not?
Can you not?